thinking, how am I going to describe this? Because, in Atlantis, things were so different than they are now. And so I thought back, okay, what did my experience look like? Well, I'm standing on a hill and I'm looking over this community. Now, if I was standing on a hill now and looking at a community of dwellings where people live, I'd be looking at houses, the rooftops of houses, but not in Atlantis. I was looking at what appeared to be, from our point of view, a forest. It looked just like a forest. And that's because in that time in Atlantis, we lived in trees. And I don't mean like squirrels or monkeys. I mean that we lived in trees that made dwellings for us. Hello, hello, hello. It's Carol Ann Chapman. And, I think I've said this before, that the time of Atlantis, that Atlantis existed, was actually a very, very long time. So that Atlantis was different depending on what period of time you have memories from. And I see Biscuit Builder is here. Hello from Tennessee. She says, I made it. Gonna sit back and listen. Oh gosh, I'm so happy to see you, my dear. I'm just thrilled. So I was just saying how everything was so different in Atlantis and that Atlantis existed for such a long time. So think about North America. And think of how different it was before Europeans got here. And think of how, if you went even further back before the Native American people came across the ice bridge in Alaska, how there had been the ice sheets covering much of North America. So if you were going to say, think back to what it was like to be in the United States, it depends on when. And this time that I'm talking about, the agreement of nature time in Atlantis, was before there were human beings. And the other thing that it was before was that it was a time before we used language. So when we communicated with nature, we communicated with our thoughts. And because we didn't have words yet, and I will talk about this in future videos, we talked more in image bundles. So say we want to make a home in a tree, and people like to make tree houses. So what does it take to make a tree house? Usually it means that you find a good tree for it, but you also have to use some lumber that you bang into this tree to make a floor, to make a ladder to get up there, to make a roof. Well, that lumber comes from a dead tree. Somebody had to cut a tree down and then cut the lumber out of the tree. Well, in Atlantis, we didn't do that. In Atlantis, we communicated with the tree, and it was a friendly exchange. We didn't say the way we would do now, I want a tree house, so this is what I'm going to do. And that means I go to the lumber yard, and those are cut down trees, and then I make my tree house. In Atlantis, we would ask the tree. We would say, but again, not with words, we might send a image that shows us getting rained on because we're living in the tree. And so then we send an image about, wouldn't it be nice if there was a whole bunch of leaves over us? And the tree would grow extra limbs and leaves. So we had these sort of chambers of where people would live. Oh, yeah, that does make so much sense. Thank you. Thanks for that comment. I love hearing from you. Yeah, and because we asked, and because nature was, I mean, in many ways, nature was happy that we asked. It's just like nowadays, I don't know if you have some plants in the house or outside. Don't you feel like your plants care that you've noticed them and that I mean, I talk to my plants, I think that they respond, and they certainly responded in Atlantis. So today I'm going to talk for probably no more than 10 minutes. And if you have a question, and it doesn't have to be about this topic today, it could be about something else. It could be about dreams. It could be about past lives. And if, ask the question. And after I finish my part of this presentation, then I'll answer your question if you have one. So the other thing about this time was that we didn't only communicate that way with trees. And did you see Lord of the Rings? Because the trees in Lord of the Rings have personalities, which is much more of the way it was in Atlantis with the trees at that time. So again, it's not that we said, this is what I want. Unless you do it, I'm going to cut you down and form you into something else. We asked, and the trees, oh, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And of course, we'd have to be patient because things in the natural world don't just happen like that. And in fact, even if we cut a tree down, we just recently bought a house that was built. It took years, took 3 years before it was all finished. So yeah, it still takes quite a bit of time. Now, the other thing, it wasn't only with the trees, it was also with animals, creatures. And I wonder, how in Egypt they have the embalmed cats. I wonder if that is like a remnant of thinking left from Atlantis, because I do believe that people came from Atlantis to Egypt, and that a lot of the sort of religion or these old books of in Egypt are about that time of when the Atlanteans came to Egypt. So I do wonder if maybe cats were so important because they were creatures that sometimes Atlanteans would put their energy in the cat. Okay, that sounds really confusing, or just like, how do you explain that? The best way I can explain it is my own memories of that time. And it was as if I was an oversoul, and that I could be in a number of creatures at the same time. And I could even work with the creatures so that it could modify itself in the same way as with a tree. And I have made a video about the pixie-faced frog being that I had been. All right, I see there's a new comment. Yes, I believe our plants respond in their own way. It's so special. And I very much enjoy being here with you. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Oh, thanks. Really means a lot to me. It says, I believe our cats are connected to the spirit realm somehow. I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And there's some kind of communication with cats and dogs as well. And they have this feeling of wanting to be with us. This is not, we're not forcing them. Yes, I know we feed them, but there's something else going on with our pets. I have a grand cat that I love immensely, who's just quite a character. In any case, my experience was that I had been this sort of oversoul, and I had been in a woman with a child. That these were the ones that were killed by the boulder. I'd also been a woman scientist, and I'd been the pixie-faced frog being. Each of them, I communicated with their essence, with their inner self, to do whatever I would ask them to do. And it was a very satisfying experience to be involved with these creatures on Earth, because I had been a light being from another star system. And I believe we are all light beings, eternal light beings, and that our religious writings from whatever culture we're in are originally attempting to explain this about who we really are. Well, I think that's about it. Oh, it's 11 minutes, and I said I'd talk for about 10, so I've gone over. Now, about next week, I'm happy. I'm really, really happy you could make it today, and I will have another session in a week on Tuesday. I did have a request from one of the people in my Golden Ones group. These are the people who in Atlantis decided to reincarnate now, when we're again technologically advanced and on the brink of self-annihilation. They're here to be of help and to bring in a new world. And sometimes a psychic tells them they're a golden one. Sometimes they dream it. Sometimes they hear it in a meditation, or sometimes they're people with memories of Atlantis. So if you're one of them, just send me an email, and we meet once a month. But one of the people in this group, we were talking about our memories of this time with the agreement with nature. And she's one of the ones that does not have memories of this time. She's actually somebody that works with crystals. That's another indication of having been in Atlantis, someone who's really, really into crystals. She uses crystals for healing. But she said, what did nature, um, whoa, I'd love it to hear your email about your dreams being simply insane. That sounds really interesting. All right, I'm looking forward to that. So, what I'm saying is, next week, I'm going to talk about what did nature get out of it, because she asked me, why did nature agree to work with us? What did nature get out of it? Well, I've been thinking about that. So that's what I'm going to talk about next week. And I'm also going to talk about the agreement with nature then in Atlantis and now, because we still have a very significant agreement with nature. And I'm also doing another live stream this Thursday, March 23rd, and that's Can You Dream About Atlantis? So if you can, come in for that one. I'm trying to keep these two. I've had live streams up to 30 minutes. Now I'm trying to keep them shorter. So I've been just so thrilled that you're here with me today. I really, really feel so warm and cared for. Thanks so much. And I'll see you next time. Toodaloo. Uh, Excited for next session. Thank you for the live stream and sharing with us. So nice to have you here. Bye bye.